A small rural community can be as complex, changeable, and hard to decode as any city. Maple Creek calls itself Cowtown, which reflects its history and the ranchlands which thrive in the lee of the Cypress Hills. But a town like this survives by riding the wave pattern of history. Boom, decline, and then, if you're imaginative and lucky, redefinition and recovery. The Star Café, a fixture for 2 generations on Pacific Avenue, is entering a new incarnation through the meeting of 2 utterly different minds. For a generation, the Star Café was a classic small-town Chinese-run restaurant, with the upper floor a dwelling space for an extended family. How does someone with your background get together with a rancher's son who himself has taken off, explored many parts of the world, got deeply involved in another language, become a very successful and brilliant artist? How do you guys get together into a business venture? Can you describe the way that evolved?
Yes. First of all, Barry was looking for a studio. And Barry comes into the coffee shop and has coffee a lot. And I think because we both lived in Europe and because we come from eclectic backgrounds, and we had a lot to talk about.
I should turn some lights on. Actually, this is kind of... For me, glare is an issue. I actually enjoy...
Is that because of the surfaces of your paint?
Yes. I enjoy strong light, but it's more even, less changeable if it's coming from the north. So.
Now, that was a wall, presumably.
Yes, yeah. There were 2 rooms here, actually, at one point.
Now, what's going to happen?
I'll open this up, so
what does that mean?
We should have 12-foot ceilings here.
And what is it now?
9.
9?
Yeah. I have many painter friends and writer friends.
Yeah.
I want to make a space that's comfortable for them to come and stay. And part of moving back to the small town, which was made the choice difficult, was being less in contact on a spontaneous basis with other artists.
He was looking for a studio, and my husband, who is our 3rd partner, Dave, is an engineer. And Barry had asked him to look at a building to see if it truly was as twisted as he thought it was. So Dave looked at the building and talked at length about roof lines and stuff, and then Barry decided not to buy that building. But we did know that Barry was looking for a studio. So about, a few days later, maybe 4 or 5 days later, the meter reader came into the store, because our meters are inside the store, and she said, "Oh, by the way, did you see the Star Café's for sale?" And I know it's an old building, I know it has high ceilings, and I have always wanted a restaurant. Since my children were very small, many, many years ago, I have wanted a restaurant. And I said, "Really? Go back and find out how much they want," because I couldn't leave. So she went back and found out how much they want, and I said, "Oh my God, we can do that." So I called Barry.
is it just in your head?
Sort of done a scale drawing of the bar that I want to exist here. So
that's based on the photograph.
It is, yeah. And that's because I need to provide that for the builder, for my friend who will build it.
I really wanted to talk to you about your idea of having a studio for visiting people, because I am curious about your need for privacy, concentration, isolation. Why do you want people to come and stay here?
There's a connectedness in just sharing a space with somebody. Actually, one of the things that I do miss, people often ask me if I miss living in the city, and I miss the people that I love there, but I don't miss being in the city per se. However, I had a wonderful studio in an old warehouse building in downtown Calgary, and it was full of artist studios, so we had a very spontaneous interaction. That part I do miss.
Do you think that apart from the question of actually having, unbelievably to me, the ability that with the right person to work side by side with another painter, do you think having other artists concentrating is something that you can mutually feed off?
Definitely. Absolutely. That's the thing that I miss the most here. I don't wish to be in the same room painting with somebody. I wish to be in the room beside the room where someone else is painting. In a sense, what I'd like to do is have the best of both worlds, because in that inner city studio, which was great for all of the shared experience with other artists, being a landscape painter, I felt removed from the land as well, which part of the reason for being here in this town is responding to the hills without it being a trip to get there. So I think what I'd like to do here is get the best of all of that.
See, one thing I look at, I mean, it's a transformation already, but it's got bigger, as I said. Therefore, it's cold. And I presume something you're going to do is going to warm this room.
Very much.
And I don't know how much it's the floor, the walls, the furniture, when you design a restaurant, you know.
Lighting is probably about 60% of good design, basically. So whether the design is, we'll see if it's good, but in my head it's great.
So can you sort of explain what your lighting ideas are?
I want it to be low and twinkly and amber, basically. It's very flattering, appetizing light.
How does an entrepreneur and an artist, how do they work together as a partnership?
I think it's a really successful partnership. I hope Barry will say the same. The three of us have different areas. Barry is very focused on the design. He's very, very committed to the details of the beauty of the place, and I think that he's the right one to do that. He's got a wonderful vision, plus his family's been here since the 1800s, so he understands the culture completely of this whole town, and he shopped at the old Beasley store, which used to be in that building. So he really has a vision.
Does the canvas actually tighten up when you put the first ground on it?
It does.
Does the liquid shrink it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah? And that's part of what you calculate for, huh?
Yeah, I like my canvases as tight as a drum, so I stretch them.
And is that a matter of taste with painters? I mean, does some like to paint on a looser canvas?
I think so. When I learned this, I learned to leave some slack in it, just so that that first ground, as you say, would shrink it. But I found that it was too loose if I did that, so I stretch the crap out of these things.
I'm really interested in you as an artist, but also in this sense, I guess, as an interior designer. I mean, what does this now almost completely denuded space give you? What are you going to paint on top of it? I mean, paint in the metaphorical sense. What are you going to do to it?
I want the room to feel like it's always been here. I don't want it to feel like it's applied. I don't want anything trendy to go on in here. In fact, one of the obvious choices would be to expose the stone on this wall as well, because it's beautiful. But I think that would be a departure from the actual turn-of-the-century aesthetic that I want to adhere to. I don't like... Feature wall are not two words that I like to hear side by side, but we have exposed the stone at the back as a feature. We
discovered horrific structural defects in the building because it is 100 years old and it hasn't been well treated. They undermined about 50 years ago a basement and then just stuck a log across it and put a couple posts in the ground. And so the building was just slowly making a V into the earth. So we spent a good part of the winter fixing that. I think by taking them back to their bones, we are honoring the buildings. We have a 1910 house. We have an old house built the same year as this building. And it was really funny. The woman who used to own the house said, I got it all nice. I put rugs in it. I put wallpaper on it, on the walls, and she's taken all the rugs out and she's painted all the walls dark colors again. I just got rid of all those colors. Well, I'm glad to hear that because it means that I'm honoring the house.
Huh. You feel the same about the Star Café? I'm sure you do, but in fact, it's going to... I knew it when it was the Chinese restaurant that it was over a number of years. You're transforming it completely. Are you still honoring the building? Absolutely.
We couldn't reveal the old floor because the building had settled too much and there was too much of a difference between one corner and the other, quite frankly. So, but we're putting in a recycled floor from an airplane hangar in Fort Macleod. We have stripped it back to the original walls that are still there under all the other stuff, the hanging ceilings and fluorescent lights. They're all there. You can see the subsidence in the building because some of the timbers in the wall are kind of like this, and that's cool. You know, that's good. It looks great.
I'm coming back in a way to something I was talking to you about earlier, which is the demarcation of responsibilities and expertises and so on. But was it all for Barry to just take this canvas and make something and say, here, as well as I can communicate it verbally? Oh, for all I know, Barry drew a sketch, did he?
No. Not really, no. But you know what's funny? The first time that Barry ate supper at my house, he said, oh, you collect antique silver. He collects antique silver. We have sensibilities that mirror each other. We often feel like we're a little inside each other's head. So, yeah, no, it wasn't hard. It's harder for the engineer in the team to visualize, I think, because he's looking more at whether it's going to stand for another 100 years. But no, Barry and I are pretty together on this.
Would there have been a time in your life when you were away, you were studying, you were exploring, when you wouldn't have thought you'd come back to Maple Creek?
Until about a month before buying a house here, the answer to that was 100% yes.
Really?
Yeah, to live here. Yeah, I never thought I would come back.
But I bet for the last few months you haven't been getting into the hills very much.
I haven't, no.
So when the cafe is launched, when the restaurant has its splash, you'll probably go for a long walk.
I want to go into my Westphalia and disappear.
Well, then I won't ask you where you're going to go. Now that the partitions have come down and the ceiling raised to the joists, the upstairs is filled with light and with the luminous canvases of an artist whose life began on a ranch close to this town, but whose work conjures up dimensions beyond this time and place.
We want to create an experience. We don't want people to come in and say, when they leave, oh, I guess that was good. We want them to leave going, wow, we're coming back. This was fabulous. And that isn't only food. That's ambiance and staff and everything. It has to be the whole experience.
Okay, folks, showtime.
Does flambe do anything other than entertain people? Does it make a difference too?
I would dearly love to do flambés here if I could, but there's no way, everybody's intimidated by them, but I would love to start doing that because it's a lost art and everybody's doing them nowadays. If we brought them back, we would bring people in, I know for sure.
And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the orders at your tables and you're gonna bring them all back to me and I'm gonna deal with them.
You could go to the front door, Ben, because she's bringing another one in. Ah, I see. Yeah. Hold on to this for now.
Actually, I'm gonna change my mind.
Okay. We want it to be a restaurant for the people in town. We don't want people to think that they're not dressed up enough to come here, or that they need to go home and have a shower. No, you don't need to. You need to come in and enjoy the food. And we want to have that whole atmosphere of loving to feed people is what's going to really fill this place. Well, I love to feed people.
Jeez, I could be a star. I could be a star. I spent the last 10 years working in Kansas, Australia, and I came home a year and a half ago and didn't know what I wanted to do. Started a little catering business, got out of that, and because to come to do this. And I'm here. I guess I'm having fun.
Quite amazing.
Right from the get-go that we want to strike a balance in creating an environment that is elegant enough that people can feel good about dressing up and celebrating something here. Or similarly, if somebody happens to have a horse trailer full of heifers on the way to the vet and want to stop for a steak or a burger, that they feel equally comfortable here. So, and I think we can do it. Because again, I don't want to do anything that's trendy. I think it will just look rooted in history, with a few, what I hope to be good design elements working in our favor.
Young people need to know that it's okay to be brave, it's okay to take a risk, it's okay to make your mark in your own way. Had I known that when I was a young person, I would have been an entrepreneur my whole life.
We have the sherry vinaigrette. Steaks we had, vegetables we got, the fish we got. I need to do the fish. That's all done. And your desserts are done, right? Yeah. Okay, done deal.
The alchemy of a portrait is to actually have the person that you're painting inhabit the surface, which doesn't happen just if you get all of the features down to where they belong, millimeter by millimeter. It's all about some sort of spiritual habitation.